I call this meeting to order. Welcome to the first meeting of the Subcommittee on Private Members' Business. Pursuant to Standing Order 91.11, we are meeting to consider the items placed in order of precedence on February 9th, 10th, 11th, to determine whether they should be considered non-votable. Okay, so I think you guys all know the drill, though. The members in person, make sure you follow wearing your mask and social distancing and sanitize before coming in. So we may now proceed to the consideration of the items recently placed on the order of precedence. Unless the subcommittee members choose to proceed otherwise, I will go, well, I won't go through each item. I will just ask you whether you have any concerns on any particular items, and then we'll just move on to those. Yes, Mr. Barrett?
Thanks, Madam Chair. With respect to the information prepared by the analysts and the PMBs listed, I have no concerns with any of the items in the package.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Barrett. I guess you were serious when you said this could be a speedy meeting.
Spirit of collaboration, Madam Chair.
Madame Normandin.
Ms. Normandin, speaking for the Bloc, I can support what has been said. We have no objection to any of the items that are on the order of precedence.
Okay, thank you. So, Madame Normandin, the Bloc have no objections. I don't know what the order is there.
You can ask Ms. McPherson.
Okay, Ms. McPherson.
I actually think it was Mr. Turnbull that was first. If he,
All right.
No, he's okay.
You go ahead.
All right, thanks, Ryan. The NDP have no objections either to anything that's been put forward.
Okay, we're on a roll then. Mr. Turnbull.
Well, sorry to be the wet blanket, Madam Speaker. I do have one key issue that's come to my attention related to Bill C-246, an act to amend the Constitution Act of 1867. The issue relates to the amending formula that would apply to the bill. So the Privy Council Office and Justice are advising that Bill C-246 does not clearly violate the Constitution Act of 1867 to 1982 because a credible argument can be made that the bill is the appropriate mechanism to effect the proposed constitutional change. However, it is very likely that the bill is not constitutional because it engages the principle of proportionate representation of the provinces in the House of Commons and therefore would need to be affected by constitutional amendment under the general amending formula. For example, by proclamation of the Governor General, following authorizing resolutions from the Senate, the House of Commons, and the Legislative Assembly of no fewer than 7 provinces representing no less than 50% of Canada's population. So I do just want to raise these, issues or concerns. I think if this bill should be found votable, it's anticipated that the government members will certainly raise some of these arguments during the debate.
Okay, thank you. Maybe we can have our analyst help us out with this one. And just
certainly. So the bill in question specifies in its preamble that it is invoking the unilateral federal amendment procedure under Section 44 of the Constitution, which solely requires the adoption of an ordinary law by Parliament for matters in relation to the House of Commons. I did do a little bit of research on this point, and I would draw the subcommittee's attention to the Fair Representation Act, which was given royal assent to in 2011. It amended the same provision of the Constitution as Bill C-246 would, and this was done by way of the Section 44 unilateral federal amendment procedure under the Constitution. So there are some precedents. The subcommittee is not bound by that precedent, but it could be instructive to the subcommittee. And the role of the subcommittee is really to apply the 4 criteria, one of which is whether the bill is clearly unconstitutional. So perhaps there's an argument to be made here that the bill in question does not meet that high bar, but that would be up to the subcommittee to determine.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, as Mr. Turnbull's pointed out, there's, issues that can be raised regarding this bill. And as you've pointed out, our analyst has given us some other issues on other bills as well, but they don't necessarily rise to a level of being not votable and perhaps can be debated in the House. Any further comments to that? Madame Normandie?
Oui, peut-être pour me permettre de...
Yes, I could just add this, perhaps, that the role of the subcommittee is perhaps a more liberal approach than what actually occurs in the House of Commons. I don't think I heard that the bill was clearly unconstitutional. There would be questions, and therefore I would ask my colleagues to allow my bill to get to the necessary stage in the House.
Okay, or is everyone in agreement? All right, everyone agrees. If I could have the help of members to move the necessary motions.
Just the first one.
Okay, that all items recently added to the order of precedence and considered today remain votable. Thank you, Mr. Barrett. Second, that the subcommittee present a report listing those items which it has determined should not be designated non-votable and recommending that they be considered by the House.
So moved.
Thank you. And finally, that the chair report the subcommittee's findings to the Standing Committee on Procedure and House Affairs as soon as possible.
So moved.
Thank you. We are adjourned.